Olá pessoal, tudo bem? A gente está aqui com a Lis Willis, que é correspondente da rede de televisão americana RSNB e vai conversar com a gente um pouco a respeito da atual situação geopolítica em todo o mundo e da visão de quem está lá nos Estados Unidos e quem conhece bastante os atores políticos da cena americana. Vai ser uma conversa bem interessante. A Liz vai ter bastante coisa para acrescentar para a gente. So, thank you very much, Liz. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. Let us know a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me. It's quite an honor, and I just love the country of Brazil. So I'm happy to chat with y'all about anything I possibly can, especially related to the United States and our current political environment. I have been working in broadcasting for the past 5 years since graduating from university in 2016. And I have had hundreds of trips to see President Trump and to broadcast his rallies to millions and millions of people across the world, not just the United States. So I've been able to really just watch him grow, as well as watch, as the world sees right now, the current political system that we're going through within the United States. So I basically live, eat, sleep politics, specifically here in the United States, but I'm happy to share what I've seen and share my opinions with you guys who don't get to live here and you don't get to see the day-to-day happenings of what's going on here.
How is the current situation, the current international situation playing out in the United States? How are you guys seeing that? What's your view on the whole Russia and Ukraine issue?
So America is really split, and there's those who are educated on politics and they kind of have a certain understanding of what's going on. And then I'd say it's about 50-50. A lot of people just don't know what's going on. And we live in one of the most beautiful free countries in the world. So it's somewhat of a blessing, but it's also living in the dark. It's not fair for us to think that the world is at peace and that we can't expect another World War III, that's so taboo of a thought when it actually is happening right in front of us. Our news cycles are not covering it properly. They make it look okay when in fact it's quite a scary situation and it could easily escalate to a potential World War III. Hopefully we don't get there, but it's not talked about a lot here unless you specifically are involved in news and it's something you follow day to day. But the majority of my friends, 20, 30-year-olds, younger, they probably are not worried about it at all.
It's too far away, somebody else's problem, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It just seems like it would never happen in 2022 that that we've evolved and that it's love and peace. But at the end of the day, it's not the case.
Well, we should be so lucky it doesn't happen, but I mean, it's definitely worrisome. From the point of view of the educated population, how do you personally see it happening right now? Do you think that we were closer to the escalation of the problem before? We are closer now? Is the situation improving or not?
Right. So it's a great question, and I'm going to answer it in kind of two parts.
Okay.
The first part, in my opinion, if President Trump was still in office, this would be a non-issue. We had great relations with Russia and with the majority of Eastern Europe under his administration. And now we have Joe Biden in office, and it's not to say really any digs at him other than the facts. He's now in office, and this is horrible what is happening. My opinion, it's tough. I'm a very empathetic person, and I really care deeply about the people of Ukraine, and that nobody, not even the Russians, nobody should be having to go through this barbaric moment and have to face war and bombing and leaving their family and friends. But I don't think it's really the United States' problem. I think that if we could have better leadership, I would like to handle this through diplomacy. I think bombing and war is quite a barbaric tactic to be using right now. Unfortunately, that is what's happening. But I think that, it's really at the fault of weak leadership and having a president that isn't willing to stand behind what he says.
You think that Putin's kind of like sniffed opportunity because of this weak leadership, and that's why he did what he did?
Absolutely. We've seen that in many cases. And we know that, of course, think China, Russia, nobody wanted the United States to be the strong nation that we were. We were some of the highest grossing GDP. Unemployment was at all-time lows. We were really thriving under President Trump. And I think we've seen a lot of possible election interference that happened in the 2020 election. And it makes sense that foreign nations would not want us to be as strong as we were. So it's kind of sad to see what played out and where we are right now. But there is a flip side to that because we do have midterms coming up. I think we're about 8 months away. President Trump is still campaigning very hard for representatives, congressional and senatorial and gubernatorial representatives that he thinks would be America First candidates who can kind of right this wrong and get leaders back into our, Washington, D.C., our state's capital.
You think that this midterm election and the possibility of Republicans gaining control of one of the House or even both, do you think that would change the current stance of the White House towards the international situation?
Yeah, so as history suggests, as it repeats itself, the control of Congress will change after midterm elections, and it generally goes in favor of the opposing party that currently has the White House. So right now we've got Democrats in control of both the House and the Senate, and we have 435 seats in the House of Representatives up for grabs. We've got 35 Senate seats up for grabs. And here in the United States, Republicans, the Republican Party, is campaigning very, very hard. Liberals, not so much. It's really it's black and white there. That's not an opinion. It's just, they're not campaigning. In fact, a lot of them are withdrawing from their current positions. Every day, it seems like someone else is saying, I don't think I'm going to run again. But I think that it's just, we have seen the worst case scenario for feckless leadership within the United States. And whether or not 4 years ago you were conservative or libertarian, liberal, whatever it may be, we are not at a good place. Our inflation is at an all-time high. We're looking at possible food shortages in the coming years, as bad as World War II. And we, this year alone, we're looking at an over 5,000% increase that we're going to have to be spending due to inflation just on our spending. It's roughly $400 a month now that we were not spending simply a year ago. So interest, inflation, the housing market, jobs, it's all really terrible. And I think people are able to see what can happen if you
don't have good leadership.
I see. From the point of view of the policies that are being implemented, do you think that change is going to bring about any different policies? I mean, the way the U.S. is approaching the Russia-Ukraine war, or even the relationship with Europe, for example, that should change in what directions exactly?
I think that with the majority of the NATO nations, those will remain the same. Russia has kind of been an outlier for the most part, and I wouldn't be surprised if we continue just to stay amicable as opposed to allies with Russia. But I hope it'll be fine. I know that we just need, the war in itself right now, Russia's not doing as well as they think they are. What Putin is being told, I was just reading an article, he doesn't have any understanding. He's not on the forefront of the battleground. He actually doesn't know that they're losing ground right now. They're running out of supplies. People are afraid to tell him the truth. They're afraid to give him the status updates of what's going on in the war because, he could kill them. Who knows? So I think that we might be seeing an end there, but I'm nowhere near an expert on war and any of what's going on over there. I just hope that we can get some negotiations. I know that Biden, I believe he's talking to Zelensky later today, the Ukrainian president, and hopefully we can get some help him in a way. We're kind of in a tough position where we want to help, the United States does, but we also don't want Russia to then come and attack us. So how can we do this without, putting ourselves and our American citizens at risk? So that's something that we're dealing with, struggling with the White House, but hopefully he can work it out. I have little faith in the current president, but enough to think that
we can avert the worst.
Yeah.
We've been paying a lot of attention to the economic situation in the U.S., particularly the prospect of interest rates going up, and they should continue to go up. For me, as far as we can tell, we're going to see 8 increases over the next 8 Fed reunions. How do you see that? It was a major blunt in terms of the inflation. It was a surprise for everybody. Did anybody see that coming? How do you perceive that?
Yeah, so did anyone see it coming? I, again, have worked at every single President Trump rally for the past 5 years or so, and I've heard so many speeches, and this is exactly what he warned us about. He said, if you get Joe Biden in office, you will be paying $8 a gallon for gas, and everyone just thought he was being dramatic. This is not the case. I can completely foresee that happening the next year. Right now we're at $4 or $5 for gas. Of course, that's premium for 1 gallon, not liters, but it's crazy. I never in my life have seen interest increase the way it has. Again, right now, the way inflation is looking is that the average household right now has to spend an extra $5,200 this year. That's an extra $433 every single month. And when you think about the middle income family, that's just absolutely insane to them. That's a car payment or the mortgage on their house. People don't have that kind of money to deal with inflation. And you see it all around right now. It's not just, we see cars are impossible to get here in the United States. I'm not sure what it's like in Brazil right now, but if you want a new car, you're looking at paying about 20%, roughly up to $20,000 more on that same vehicle that you would have got a year ago, if you can find one available. Used cars, you're going to pay about what you would pay for a new car on that used vehicle. Grocery stores, 2 problems there. One, the supply chains. We've had a huge issue between COVID, supply chains, the ships that are stuck on our West Coast, not being able to even have the workers come in due to restrictions and lockdowns to unload those things. So not only do we not have a large supply, but what we do have, of course, the supply and demand that has caused those prices to drastically increase. You see it every single where you go. If you go to take your dog to get groomed, there's going to be a disclaimer that says services are now $5 more due to, labor and expensive. It's everywhere. I've never seen it. It's the first time in my life, and now it's just. So if you're a millennial and you want to buy a house, you better be a millionaire, because around me, the average cost is $500,000 US, and that's for a very basic house. It's really scary.
We as Brazilians, we understand exactly what's going on. I mean, high inflation, high interest rates. I mean, that's kind of like run-of-the-mill situation around here.
I know. And I lived in Brazil for 2 years, and I saw it there, and I remember thinking, I would never see that in the United States. This is crazy. And I think when I was living there, the US dollar was roughly equivalent to 3 reais, and now it's 6.
No, now it's back to around 475, 480, something like that.
It's not the worst.
It has back now. Of course, I mean, we raised interest rates a lot over the past few months, so that kind of explains why the real has improved. When I was living in the United States, was early 80s. We had Paul Volcker in the Fed, so I mean, I kind of saw that kind of interest rate increases happening that time. It did work. It definitely did work. It hurt a lot, but it definitely did work.
No, it's crazy. Our interest rates are we've been told from the government, from the White House, that they do plan to continually increase them as well. And we're also looking at millions, billions of dollars of student loans that a lot of students across the United States think that they deserve to have forgiven, which blows my mind, because you agree to take out this loan, you sign that you'll pay it back. And that's kind of liberal ideology, that you don't have to pay back your loans. So just more debt, as our government accrues more debt, a lot of the everyday hardworking Americans are going to have to suck it up and pay it back in our taxes, whatever else they may deem necessary. And it's really tough for tax-paying, hardworking citizens right now.
I see. So, I mean, everything's shaping up from the point of view of the economy, a little bit of economic hardship, even though it's nothing. I mean, as a Brazilian, I have to tell you, it's not that much. But anyways, from the point of view of the economic situation, from the point of view of international politics and everything, so it's shaping up to be a very good midterm election for the Republicans. How do you see going forward? I mean, over the next few years, how do you see for the next presidential election? What gonna be the issues going forward towards that?
Yes, easy. So some of the main issues, I think, and this is what we call our candidates. When a conservative, or Donald Trump right now, in my opinion, he's a kingmaker. So he decides really who he's going to endorse, and his endorsements are almost 10 for 10. When he chooses a candidate and gets behind him and says, "This is my guy," basically they have a treasure chest open to them with resources and finances that they're going to be able to go out and campaign and ultimately win their elections. So we've seen that happen. We've already had some primaries going on in Texas, and every candidate that Trump endorsed won or is in a runoff. And what he looks for is an America First candidate, someone that is going to continuously put America first, as opposed to more of liberal socialist ideas. Someone that is pro-gun, anti-regulations, lower taxes, pro-military, pro-veteran. And that's kind of what the Republican Party is looking for. That's what President Trump is looking for. And I've been watching a lot of those candidates, and they seem to be doing really well. A lot of the opposing party candidates, they don't really stand for anything right now. And there's nothing for them to fight for, because what they did argue for, which is, say, I guess the biggest opposing party would be, they want to pay more taxes and they're pro-LGBTQ, which it's fine, but that's not an issue that every single American deals with day to day. And we're seeing that putting leaders in party who don't have, the smartest interest at hand, it's just, that's not what America needs right now. So going forward, I think we could see President Trump possibly running again for office in 2024. I could see him running again. I have heard him claim multiple times. He said, "We have won twice before and we will win a third time." And that's a direct quote. Whether or not it means that he will win or somebody that he endorses will win, he will be involved one way or another in the 2024 election. If it is not President Trump running, I think Ron DeSantis has really high favorability amongst conservatives.
So, from the point of view of the unity of the Republican Party, there were some non-Trumpers before. I mean, Trump kind of runs the show, so to say. He dominates the discourse. I mean, it's pretty much he set the party line in a way,
Absolutely.
and that's pretty clear right now.
It's very clear, and especially being able to see the past. If you want to look up the race in Texas, where they just did Attorney General. I don't remember who else was running, but it was about 4 or 6 people running, and everyone that Trump endorsed did well. We have a couple more primaries coming up before the main midterms, but so far that's the case. There are some anti-Trumpers inside the Conservative Party. There's Liz Cheney, John Kerry, a couple people like that, but I don't see them really standing for anything. It doesn't really help right now to be in the middle. We need people that are really fighting for change, because we've seen what's going on, and it's not the end of the world for us, but America's better.
I see. Well, I think I have a list of issues here. I think you're pretty straightforward, you're pretty objective. I think we covered pretty much everything that I had in mind. Feel free to give us your final remarks.
It's refreshing. You say, it's okay. You see what's going on there in the United States, but you've lived in Brazil and it's not the end of the world here. So we're just going to have to keep fighting for this beautiful country, and hopefully our countries can continue to work well together.
Sure thing. Thank you very much, Liz. Talk to you.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.